Hello and welcome back to another episode of Math with Sohn. Today we are going to be rationalizing the denominator given square roots. So if there is a single square root on the bottom of the fraction like we have here, the square root of 5, then your job is quite simple and you could almost do it in your head after a little bit of practice. You multiply by the square root of 5 and the square root of 5 to give you 3 square roots of 5 over 5. And the reason it's over 5 is because the square root of 5 times the square root of 5 is 25, but the square root of 25 is 5. And the only thing you would have to do is maybe simplify the 3 over 5, but 3 over 5 doesn't even simplify. So this one, ladies and gentlemen, is done. Okay, so we'll do one more of those. Let's do one more. Let's say we had 4 over the square root of 6. If we had to rationalize that one, we would multiply by the square root of 6 and the square root of 6. And that would make 4 square root of 6 over the square root of 36, which is 6. But 4 over 6, you can simplify, and 4 over 6 turns into 2 over 3. Now notice that I can simplify this 4 and this 6 because they are both on the outside of the radical. I could not simplify this 4 and that 6 because this 4 is on the top and is not square rooted, but this 6 is square rooted. So we couldn't simplify unless they are both outside or both inside the square root. Okay, that's the easier problems. You're going to be happy when that happens. You're going to be unhappy when things like this happen. Let's say we have 3 over 5 plus the square root of 2. So here, if you have 2 things on the bottom of the fraction, you cannot just multiply by the square root of 2 and the square root of 2. You must multiply by the conjugate, which would be 5 minus the square root of 2 and 5 minus the square root of 2. From here, any operation that you need to do. In this case, there's a 3 on the top, so we're going to distribute the 3 to both terms, making that the easier part of the problem. 15 minus 3 square root of 2, because it's kind of like saying 1 times 3 on the outside, over the bottom part we are going to have to FOIL. We have to do 5 times 5 to get 25, and then 5 times negative square root of 2. So we did 5 times both, and then we're going to end up doing square root of 2 times both. It's a double distribution. 5 times the negative square root of 2 is negative 5 square roots of 2. And we've dealt with the 5. We did 5 times both. Now we do square root of 2 times both terms. Well, square root of 2 times 5 is positive 5 square roots of 2. And square root of 2 times square root of 2 is 4. But there's a negative square root of 2 here. So this is not going to be negative 4, but it's going to be a minus the square root of 4. So 1 times negative 1 on the outside made negative 1 here. The middle part will cancel out if you have done it correctly every single time you multiply by the conjugate, which is changing the sign in the middle. And now we just have to do a little bit more math. We have nothing to do on the top yet. There might be something later. We have 25 minus the square root of 4. Well, 25 minus the square root of 4 is going to end up being minus 2 because the square root of 4 is 2. So 25 minus 2 is 23. So the bottom of our fraction is flat old 23, and we end up with 15 minus 3 square root of 2 over that 23. And there's nothing you can do in this case because neither the 15 nor the 3 divide by 23. You may see some answer choices do this, where they put the 15 over 23 and the 3 square root of 2 all over 23 individually. And there's a benefit to that because maybe one of them simplifies individually. So I've seen both answers on all multiple choice. It depends on the question to determine which one you actually have. All right, let's do another one. Let's make it a little harder, okay? Let's say we got 4 plus the square root of 5 over 3 minus the square root of, what do we want? Let's go with 6. Why not? I could not decide. Here, we also will have to multiply by the conjugate. We would have to multiply by 3 plus the square root of 6 and 3 plus the square root of 6 because we changed the sign on what is on the bottom. Our goal is to get rid of the square root on the bottom of the fraction. We distribute and FOIL the top and the bottom. That's going to be the annoying part. That is going to be the annoying part. 4 times 3 makes 12. 4 times the square root of 6 makes 4 square root of 6. 5 times 3 is not 15. It ends up being 3 square root of 5. And then 5 times 6 makes square root of 30. All over. What do we got on the bottom? Well, the bottom is going to be a little bit better. 3 times 3 makes 9. 3 times the square root of 6 makes 3 square root of 6. 3 times a negative square root of 6 makes negative 3 square root of 6. And the square root of 6 times the square root of 6 is the square root of 36, but because one of them is negative, we put a negative on the outside because a positive times a negative is a negative. Let's see anything and everything that will combine. We have 3 square root of 6 and negative 3 square root of 6. They cancel. We have 9 minus 6 because the square root of 36 is regular 6. So 9 minus 6 is not imaginary. It's just a regular 6. Ends up being 3. 12 plus 4 square root of 6. I don't think that combines at all. Plus the 3 square root of 5. And plus the square root of 30. None of those on the top will combine at all. However, we could split these all up. We could do 12 over 3. I'm going to do it over here with a little more room. We could do 12 over 3 plus 4 square root of 6 over 3 plus 3 square root of 5 over 3 plus the square root of 30 over 3. You could do that. 12 over 3 ends up being 4. 4 square root of 6 over 3 does nothing. You cannot divide the 6 and the 3 because the 6 is on the inside and the 3 is on the no square rooty. So square root of 6, regular 3, nothing you can do. 4 over 3, you could put the 6 on the outside, like afterwards, or on the top of the fraction. 3 over 3 would cancel, so this is just plus the square root of 5. And the square root of 30 over the square over 3 does nothing either. So it's just square root of 30 over 3. You could attempt to simplify the 30, but the square root of 30 does not simplify or break down at all. So that is as far as we can go, and we would have our final answer. Okay? Now, this process still works even if that 6 were just like the square root of x. Like all of that remains the same. Do not be intimidated if that is the case. It changes to an x. And in fact, it sometimes works out a little bit better because you don't have as much simplifying to do afterwards. Anywho, until next time, stay positive, my friends, and I will see y'all later. Bye.